Hello everyone, back into today's third video. We're going to do Ensembles Watch for today's third video. So we're going to go through all members of the GFS Ensembles and see what they're showing for the next kind of week. It's going to start this on Saturday, 18th of January. I think the pattern up to then is quite well forecast, so it's really beyond that from the coming weekend through to like the second week of the forecast period that we're going to focus on. There was a suggestion yesterday within a lot of the model output, but around the 21st, 22nd of January, something like that, we might get our first proper cold snap of the winter, bring winds down from the north. Now, the GFS has backed off from that, or the GFS operationals backed off from that for the midnight and 6 o'clock GFS runs. We'll see what the midday operation run has to say first of all, and then we'll have a look at the ensemble members one by one to see what they're all showing, how many of them are going for this northerly through the third week of January and running up to the final week of the month. So I'll get on that for you very shortly, just to say that the first video released today was the second analogs update for the spring. That video is on the homepage at GFS Instagram and on the YouTube channel as well. That's going to be placed on the spring updates page very, very shortly. There'll be a written summary that goes with that as well, so you can watch the video on demand and also have a read of that one if you would like to do that. Gasworth Study Roundup was released earlier on also, so that's the Sunday afternoon eclectic mix of this and that, talk about things like solar activity, sea surface temperature anomalies, and quite a focus on that in terms of what's happening tomorrow and Tuesday with Storm Braindon and another very nasty secondary feature that we've got coming up on Tuesday. So have a look at Gasworth Study Roundup. And also the second spring analogs update when you have done with this video if you have time. We're at wetcentral.d and we're going to start off with the operational run at 144 hours. This is the 18th of January. So at this point, we are building in a ridge of high pressure from the southwest. Things are settling down, but we're still drawing up a very mild southwesterly wind from the tropical Atlantic, or sort of semi-tropical Atlantic anyway. So that's pretty mild air that's wafting in around the top of that ridge of high pressure. Let's see what happens. And the ridge strengthens further as we run through Saturday the 19th, a week away. Excuse me, this ridge is strengthening to our south, but still in very mild air. The wind's coming up around the top of that area is high pressure from the southwest. Then the high pressure sort of becomes a little bit more centrally located across the country, so that might start allowing some colder nights. Initially, that southwesterly is going to be bring a lot of cloud with it, so next weekend just looks mild and cloudy, really. But as going to the following week, we may start to generate some frosty nights. I mean, it seems a bit crazy that we're getting excited about frosty nights in the middle of winter, but that's indicative of the fact that we haven't really had any frosty nights since the first week of December. It's been not only a winter so far that's devoid of snow, it's been totally devoid of frost, really, other than in a few places, and also that the first sort of 4 or 5 days of December did have some frosty nights. Now, this high pressure, nothing's going to happen with this, I don't think, in terms of sending things colder. So all that's happening is that the high pressure is slipping southwards again, and we're returning into this seemingly never-ending westerly with areas of low pressure. So here we are. We've got to Sunday the 26th of January, and we're back to square one. Another deep area of low pressure is rattling in off the Atlantic. That's bringing yet another bout of heavy rain and gale force winds. That one clears away. We do attempt to bring down a northerly on the backside of that low, but it's not going to last. There's no high pressure to maintain that. And so as we end the GFS midday operational run, we are still looking unsettled. Yes, you've guessed it, more low pressure coming in off the Atlantic. So, excuse me again, no particular cold snap associated with that. Very, very disappointing from a cold perspective. Let's have a look at the ensemble members then. We're going to begin with the GFS control run. So this is run at a slightly lower resolution compared to all other ensemble members, or a slightly higher resolution, I should say, compared to all other ensemble members, but at a lower resolution compared to the operational run. So again, we're on Saturday the 18th of January. We bring up this southwesterly. It looks mild and still a little bit unsettled at this point. Let's see what's going to happen as we run through with this one. And the high pressure then starts to strengthen from the south. We get this nice build of high pressure developing here. Now, this is going to be becoming more centrally located across the country. So this would definitely suggest, as we go into the following week, this is Tuesday 21st to Wednesday 22nd of January, this definitely suggests not only much drier weather, but also potentially rather colder as well, with some overnight frost. I think frost would be a possibility there, but not for long. Look at this. The Atlantic is very quickly breaking it down, and here we go again. We're opening the doors to these areas of low pressure to come rattling in from off the Atlantic. That one turning us mild, wet and windy through the last week of January. So a brief frosty interlude, and then it's back to westerlies. Ensemble member number 1 looks like that. Low pressure's coming in off the Atlantic on Saturday. Do we get this build of high pressure then once that low pressure goes through? So it looks like we do actually. We start to build up some higher pressure over, and this time slightly to the east of the country. So that definitely again suggests frost. We're bringing in a continental sort of flow sometime around the 21st to 22nd of January, but it doesn't look as though that's going to be sustained for any length of time. For some reason, the mouse over has stopped working, so that's rather annoying. I'm not sure what's gone wrong there. There we go, we're back. So the westerlies then break through. It turns more unsettled as we move into the final week of January. We're bringing westerlies in, wet, windy, and mild with ensemble member number 1. For the last week of January. Ensemble member number 2 looks like that. Again, the ridge is building up from the southwest as we go into Saturday, but it's still a little bit unsettled on Saturday. Then the high pressure sort of takes over as we get through to Sunday. This is Sunday 19th of January, a week away. High pressure is building in from the southwest. Moving further on, the high pressure then starts to become a little bit more centrally located, close to the country. Quite a cold trough digging in over Scandinavia, but we're kept on the mild side of the ridge. The ridge eventually is broken down through the last week of January as low pressure comes rattling through. Here it comes, low pressure sweeping through during the last week of January. That one is also mild and westerly for the final week of January. This is ensemble member number 3, and again we're in those mild southwesterly winds on Saturday. Do we get that build of pressure by Sunday? So it's trying to raise the heights a little bit to our south, and eventually this high pressure going to have a go at building northwards as we move up towards day 10. So there we go, got to Wednesday the 22nd of January. We're under a ridge of high pressure, mainly dry, probably quite cold, with overnight frost possible. But again, same story. The ridge is very quickly broken down by low pressure coming in off the Atlantic. This one's going a bit colder though through the last week of January. The high pressure pulling out into the middle of the Atlantic, allowing more of a northwesterly to almost northerly flow. So that is generating a little bit of a cold snap there towards the very end of ensemble member number 3. But of course, we're talking about a couple of weeks away, really long way off. This is ensemble member number 4 with those southwesterly winds for Saturday, beginning the weekend as we go through to Sunday. That's how we're looking. So again, the heights are rising a little bit to our south on Sunday. The high pressure then pulls out to westwards by Tuesday 21st, so just a little bit of a northerly there with ensemble member number 4, but not lasting all that long really. And then as we go into the last week of January, this ridge, again, same story. It's being put under pressure and it's breaking down as low pressure comes in from off the Atlantic Ocean, so it's turning increasingly unsettled and very mild there. Ensemble member number 4. We could be challenging the mildest January on record with that one, I would have thought. Ensemble member number 5, looking like this. Low pressure is out to the northwest on Saturday. Then the ridge starts to build up from the southwest as we go through into Sunday. Then it sort of pulls out towards Iceland by day 10. So this one is what we were seeing quite a lot of yesterday. Ensemble number 5 is still sort of suggesting that we might get wind into the north by day 10. This is Wednesday 22nd of January. It's what we're seeing in a lot of the model output yesterday, but there's definitely been a back off from that today, a backtrack. By the time we get through to the 23rd, that high pressure is collapsing anyway, and here comes the Atlantic breaking through during the last week of January. We're back into those very mild Atlantic-driven and wet westerly winds. Ensemble member number 6 has high pressure building up from the south on Saturday. Let's see what becomes of that high pressure. So we go through to Sunday, and the high pressure is strengthening, but it's still in a mild position. You notice all of these ensemble members for next weekend are bringing up winds from west-southwest, so that will be yet another very mild weekend, I would have thought. The high pressure then is pulling out a little bit to our north and northwest as we move up towards day 10. So again, this is kind of what we were seeing yesterday. The cold air with this is kept over Scandinavia with this trough and these northerly winds. But we are under this ridge of high pressure. It's ridging quite a long way northwards, close to southern parts of Greenland. It will certainly be enough to produce overnight frost there as we get to day 10, if nothing particularly wintry. Moving into more extended range, that high pressure then starts to collapse, and low pressure is going to have a go at moving in. Eventually, the low pressure looks like it is going to break through. That low pressure on a little bit more of a southerly track, though. That's an all-round cold ensemble member, and the reason that happens is that a ridge around day 9-10 is stronger, and it takes longer for the Atlantic to break it down. The Atlantic really struggles to break it down, and so the jet stream and the low pressures start to take more of a southerly track. So that is a colder ensemble member, definitely number 6, albeit nothing all that wintry going on, but that was definitely a little bit colder. Ensemble member number 7, with high pressure building up from the south as we go through next weekend. That's bringing up very mild air from the central Atlantic with it as well. Moving towards day 10. So this is Tuesday 21st. It does have a go at bringing down some northerly winds, but the high pressure doesn't reach far enough for that to happen. So we just keep high pressure sort of close to the country. Might allow a little bit of frost. And then going into extended range, same idea. The low pressure from the Atlantic is breaking down that ridge. We're back into westerlies for the last week of the month. Ensemble member number 8 shows quite a deep area of low pressure for Saturday, so that's a little bit different to what most of the other models have shown. That's a little bit more unsettled for the weekend. That low pressure then clears away, allowing high pressure to build in, but the high pressure is further north this time, so this one's very different. The high pressure is up towards Scandinavia, and it has a go at generating a Scandinavian high, but I don't think it's going to be successful. There's too much energy in the Atlantic. So by day 10, we're under a ridge of high pressure across England and Wales, so it's probably bringing frost. Scotland and Northern Ireland is in a milder west or southwesterly. And then we move through into more extended range if a mouse over is going to work, which it perhaps isn't. There we go. So we find that the ridge of high pressure as we go into extended range, again, it's getting broken down, the low pressure coming back in from the Atlantic. This Atlantic driven last week to January is now becoming a very reliable sort of thing within the GFS ensembles. Definitely most of them are going for that. Ensemble member number 9 is also looking a little bit unsettled on Saturday, and then ridge of high pressure is building up from the south as we go through into Sunday. By Tuesday 21st January, the high just out to west of Ireland, allowing it a little bit of a northerly to come down across the country, quite cold across Scandinavia. Very quickly that high pressure collapses and low pressure starts to roll in from off the Atlantic. That turns things increasingly unsettled again through the last week of January. The Atlantic comes back once more. Ensemble member number 10 shows high pressure again down to our south. Saturday low pressure is still through the country, so a little bit mixed start the weekend. Then the high starts to build up from the southwest. We go into those southwesterlies and we head up towards day 10. Looking like that, so generally quite mild really up to day 10. Beyond that, the Atlantic just starts to reinvigorate, turns quite stormy. A little bit colder there with those northerly winds as that low pressure exits away. But nothing really cold, nothing sustained doing there. By the very end of it, Tuesday 28th of January, we're still looking at unsettled and mild. It's having a go at reaching that high pressure up towards Greenland, but that's still mild really up to the very end of that particular ensemble member number 10. Number 11 shows again quite unsettled for Saturday, and then the high pressure is building up from the south as we go through into the early part of next week. This one's just bringing in a very mild west or southwesterly wind, so up to 23rd of January, very little in the way of cold weather doing there. We get through into the extended range and low pressure is sinking in from off the Atlantic. That looks very unsettled. A little bit colder as well with that one as the jet stream is shifting southwards, but overall it's still all very Atlantic based stuff. Nothing from the north and certainly nothing from the east. Ensemble member number 12, with high pressure building up from the south as we go through the course of next weekend, albeit only really affecting England and Wales. Otherwise, Scotland and Northern Ireland still mild with those southwesterly winds. Heading up towards day 10, the high pressure is across southern parts of the country, probably still relatively mild though, with that. Further north, it looks rather unsettled. Into more extended range, here comes the Atlantic, turns very stormy again. Winds are going northwesterly, so slight cold zonality, especially for northern parts of the country, but it's still all very westerly, still very Atlantic-driven stuff. No fundamental change of the pattern up to the end of January there. Ensemble member number 13, a little bit showery and unsettled for Saturday. By Sunday, the high pressure is beginning to make its move from the southwest, and then as we go into the more extended range, heading up towards day 10, looks like this one's trying to generate a little bit of a mid-Atlantic ridge, so this one's going to have a go at pulling in some colder air around day 10. We are having a go at turning wind into the north. And so for northern parts of the country, probably cold enough for wintry showers. Very quickly though, that high pressure is collapsing and low pressure is backing off the Atlantic, albeit a little bit more of a southerly track with that one. So this is a rather colder variety of westerly winds. And for northern areas, that could be a little bit wintry actually through the last week of January. That's the kind of thing that could bring snow to northern parts of the country in the south, probably just quite a lot of cold rain. Ensemble member number 14 has those southwesterlies building in or pushing in as we go through to the weekend, with high pressure building to our south. Moving up to day 10, so we're trying to have a go at generating a ridge, but I don't think that ridge is going to get anywhere. I think the Atlantic is far too strong, and here it comes. We're back into westerlies again as we move through the last week of the month, turning wet, windy, with the Atlantic onslaught recommencing. Ensemble member number 15. We've got high pressure building up from the south here on Saturday. Go through to Sunday. England and Wales is under high pressure. Scotland still quite unsettled. That high pressure increasingly strong through to the early part of the following week. This is Tuesday, 21st of January, under that area of high pressure. This one's going to try and get north. This is day 10, Wednesday the 22nd. High pressure is having a go at getting itself up towards Greenland, Iceland. Cold trough is sinking through Scandinavia and Northern Europe. So Scandinavia and northern parts of Europe, you're in business there with Ensemble member number 15 for bitterly cold weather. We're kept on the periphery of that, but certainly under the ridge we would have some frosty nights. Anyway, but then again, same story. That ridge is broken down very quickly in the extended range. We go into this Atlantic battering by the 28th of January. It's amazing how all ensemble members really are breaking down this ridge. None of them are making anything of the ridge really for more than a few days. They all have us back under those westerlies by the last week of January. This ensemble member number 16. So again, we find that the ridge is building up from the southwest as we go through into Sunday, certainly for England and Wales, settling things down a little bit there. Moving up to day 10, we're under this area of high pressure, so it's mainly dry. There might be some night frost associated with that, and then in the extended range, actually this one's going to keep the high pressure going. This is the first one we've seen that doesn't really get us under that Atlantic onslaught in the last week of January, albeit the high pressure is slipping, so it's moving over towards eastern parts of Europe, but that one is a lot drier for the last week of January, and probably we would have some overnight frost with that as well. Ensemble member number 17 shows that, again, over the weekend, high pressure is taking over a little bit strong with that high pressure with ensemble member number 17. It's centred right over top of the country. It's bringing a continental feed, so that's colder for next weekend and mainly dry as well. Is that high pressure going to go anywhere interesting? Well, it's trying to retrogress, trying to get itself up towards Greenland and Iceland. A very cold northerly trough is sinking in over Scandinavia. This one is pulling in sort of an east-northeasterly. At this point, not particularly cold, but it's probably the coldest that we've seen so far on some member number 17 under that area of high pressure. That would be generating some quite hard overnight frost, I think. However, it's going to finish up exactly where most of the ensemble members are by the end of it, and we're reintroducing those westerly winds, certainly for the north anyway. For the south, we're still under the influence of high pressure on the 28th of January. And quite mild for all of us by that point. Ensemble member number 18, so again, that's how we're looking next weekend. The ridge is building up from the south, that which is going to try to get itself to Scandinavia. It does get itself to like southern Scandinavia and sort of Denmark, that kind of area, as we move up towards day 10. Again, this is a little bit colder. This is bringing in the wind from an easterly direction, albeit it's not particularly cold easterly, but it will certainly be enough to generate overnight frost, and it's a lot drier as well. So what happens in the extended range of ensemble member number 18 is that the ridge just hangs around for a while before eventually slipping away to the east and allowing these westerlies to come in. So by the time we finish up on the 28th of January, we're back under the Atlantic onslaught once again with those westerlies powering up. And then penultimately, ensemble member number 19 looking like that. So again, for the weekend, that ridge is building up from the southwest. This one is a mild, has mild weather for the weekend. It's a warm ridge. And then into the following week, it does pull down some quite cold air into Scandinavia with this trough of low pressure, but we're kept on the mild side of this ridge of high pressure. And we've got winds still coming in from the west. In the more extended range, this one's having a go at building some high pressure up over Scandinavia. And so this low pressure that's developed over the top of the country is a little bit stuck. So is this going to pull in cold easterlies by the end of it? Let's have a look and see what happens. So eventually this low pressure is diving southwards. And yeah, we do finish up actually with cold easterlies with ensemble member number 19 by 28th of January. If you want a prolonged cold spell, that's the best that we've seen so far. It takes a very long time to get to it, but eventually you'll notice we have got some high pressure over Scandinavia. It's ridging over towards Greenland as well. The trough of low pressure is over Germany and Denmark, and we're bringing in a wind from the east, by that point. That probably sets us up for quite a cold start to February, but there's no quick way out of that sort of situation. So if you want a prolonged cold spell, that's the one ensemble member that we're seeing so far that is setting up quite a prolonged cold spell. However, obviously that's quite an outlier. Let's see finally what ensemble member number 20 does. So this one builds a high pressure up from the southwest as we go through into Sunday. And that high pressure is still sticking around through the early part of the following week. So that's mainly dry, probably turning increasingly frosty. And it's having a go at putting down some northerly winds as we get up towards day 10. It's got the high pressure just out to the west of us. It's having a go at putting down a half-hearted northerly, but I don't think that northerly is really going to come to very much at all, and we find that the ridge is very quickly broken down by this low pressure coming in from off the Atlantic, and so this one is going to get us into a westerly type pattern as we finish it. So other than ensemble member number 19, most of these ensemble members are seeing some drier and very mild weather next weekend. Possibly a few days of drier, colder, frostier weather around day 10. And then for the final week of January, we go back into the Atlantic onslaught. The only one that differed from that really was ensemble member number 19, which did generate quite a extended cold spell of blocking, but very much an outlier. Let's finally just have a look at the GFS ensemble graph of the upper air temperature. This is for London, the last place we was looking. So you see there is still quite a lot of scatter here within the GFS ensembles. So for the next few days, we're going to have zonal weather. This period is all zonal and very unsettled. This is our drier period where we have a few days of higher pressure. Initially very mild with that high pressure with the upper air temperatures and then lowering. How much those upper air temperatures lower, uncertain. You'll see we have got those colder members down here. They're either putting down those cold northerlies for a day or so, one or two of those. Most ensemble members keep things mild though. And after that little drier interlude just there, let's go through the last week of January, as we saw with most of those ensemble members, starts turning wetter again through this period just here, albeit it's a long way out. This is the last week of January, but through this period just here, the GFS ensembles, most of them anyway, want to recommence the Atlantic onslaught for the last week of January. So, other than ensemble member number 19, which does something completely different, it's a lot colder. So, other than ensemble member number 19, there's not much to go on here. If you want cold and seasonal weather through the second half of January, we may get a little colder snap sometime around day 10. There's still the possibility of that, although the GFS and ensembles have backed off a lot from that through today compared to yesterday. But a few of those ensemble members were still going for that little northerly snap around day 9, 10, not lasting more than a day or two, and then all the evidence, I think, is suggesting that we may well find ourselves going back under the cosh with the Atlantic ramping itself up again for the last week of January. The Atlantic has been extraordinarily buoyant this winter, and it looks like even to the last week of January that could well be continuing. Right, so that's it for your videos for this weekend. Tomorrow we will have a week to 10-day video update, so come back for that then. That's all for now though, and thanks for watching.